imagine if there was like somebody in the 1850s saying something like along the lines of, well, you know, we believe that they should be slaves, but we're not advocating killing them. We're not advocating treating them badly, which, by the way, was a common argument right back then. So, like,
you're being a little bit historically inaccurate because the church.
I'm not being historically inaccurate. That's absolutely historically accurate. I recommend you read a book on this topic.
But I am going to ask you something that maybe you're kind of a little bit against, since we agree so much on so many other things. What do you think about Christian ethics and its effect on the society of the world? Your hot takes don't really focus on like Christianity and sorts of like in terms of the place in society. It's more about like just the religion in general is a bad thing because it's false. So what do you think about the ethical structure?
I don't like the ethical structure. I think it's wrong. Yeah.
Okay. What part of Christian ethics is wrong?
Well, for starters, there's aspects of the Bible that are commonly used among Christians, and I'll give you in my honest opinion, it's mostly Old Testament. But the problem that I have is that Christians commonly, cite verses in order to spread hate. Right. And it's quite commonly coming from the Old Testament. They often will ignore, the peace parts that Jesus Christ said. And it ends up effectively being Christian ethics.
Do you know why that's the case, though? And this is actually the reason why, to some extent, I actually agree with Andrew Wilson, even though Andrew Wilson's a pretty bad debater. The difference, though, is this opinion that you have about those Christian ethics is specifically Protestant Christian ethics. And the reason why it's different and why it's specifically Protestants, meaning Protestants in the U.S., right, or Protestants in
So you're just to be clear, right? You're an Orthodox, right?
It's because they believe in I'm Eastern Orthodox.
Okay.
So that's a very important thing to talk about when it comes to Christian ethics. But even so, when I point to Christian ethics, I'm talking about what I think is objectively true of what the Bible teaches as in terms of an ethical and moral structure, right? What the Protestants do is when they separated from the church in the Reformation, they specifically adopted a concept called sola scriptura, which basically means only scripture. They adopted that the highest authority, right, in Christianity was the actual Bible.
Such as an opposition to female clergy?
Correct. Well, that is still...
Yeah, not a big fan of those ethics. I'm not a fan of discrimination of women.
Okay, fair, but we're not it's not discrimination based.
It is. You're specifically denying them the ability to be in a higher seat simply for being a woman.
Do you know the reason? But again, this is the problem though. Being a position in clergy isn't a position of power. This is what the Catholic Church does, and that's incorrect, right? When the Catholic Church comes out to say that women can't be in the clergy, and then they see that clergies are kind of like political positions within the Catholic Church, that's the problem.
Why? Clergymen. Are you saying that they can't do a political position? Can women not be political?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you're saying that they can't go into this higher rank. Clergymen are not a higher rank. They are the same as the people that go to church.
Okay, but they're still denying them access, are they not?
They're not denying them access. They're not denying them access
from being female clergy. Hold on. So to be clear, right? You said that they do not ordain women as priests or bishops.
Why?
Right?
Do you know specifically why women aren't allowed to be clergymen or any parts of the clergy?
I'm sure you're going to educate me.
Okay. Well, first of all, Christianity, or at least Christian ethics based in Orthodox, is that women are respected, right, for the fact that they are able to bear children, right? This is known as one of the ultimate gifts of God, right? It's an ultimate gift, being able to reproduce.
So
right?
Why can't they be?
Because part of being, for example, for the Catholics, for example, they think women shouldn't be clergymen because clergymen have to stay. They can't actually marry. They have to be absent of that. They can't have any sexual relationships. They can't be married or anything. That's the Catholic basis. Now, the Orthodox basis, right? Clergymen can marry, right? But the difference is, in the Orthodox religion compared to the Catholic ones, men have to really sacrifice a lot of aspects of their lives in order to become clergymen, right? You have to sacrifice a lot. And when you ask a lot of them, they tell you it's not a career, right?
I always thought the reason why they can't be clergy is because it says so in the Bible.
I mean, it does say that, but it also says that a woman and a man. So this is the other point I wanted to focus on. In terms of Christian ethics, in terms of a society, though, this very specific point, I don't think negatively impacts society, because remember, a lot of the other Christian ethics that is taught is that it doesn't support this nuclear family structure, right? That's not supported by the Bible. That is Protestant ethics, right? That is further like shown by like the political structure of the United States, right? Usually, if the state has involvement in the religion, that's when you actually start seeing discrimination of people based off of sex.
Yeah, so we can't, so we don't, so we're basically, you know, we don't want women to, because they're women. Got it. So what about LGBTQ issues? What does the Eastern Orthodox Church think about that, right? What are their views on, say, sexuality or same-sex relationships or same-sex marriage?
So, in terms of LGBTQ in general, the Orthodox Church does not support any type of discrimination against them. They're the only one that you could point to, which the Catholics have now opened themselves up to a little bit more under Pope Francis, is that same-sex marriages are not completely ordained by the church, right? The church doesn't fully approve of same-sex marriages because the Bible doesn't teach, right, that same-sex couples are to be considered the same as a man and a woman.
Gotcha.
So to that extent, that is discrimination. But in a sense of a world when I'm talking about in terms of Christian ethics, right? Just the ethical point, not Christianity be like not a non-secular country, because I don't think any non-secular country is good. I think secular countries are great. The ability to choose what religion or what belief system is good. But in terms of Christian ethics, Christian ethics are not a negative impact to society until you add a position of power behind, like the U.S. government, right? Or the state in itself. Like, for example, the Russian Orthodox Church has been affected a lot by the state of Russia, which is why it caused so many problems between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Greek Orthodox Church, right? Also, Anthony had told you earlier, I think in one of your other conversations about like chattel slavery, what would happen if I don't know what the word you use, if a group of LGBTQ or transgenders had walked into the church, would they be accepted into the church? And they would, right? Because the church is a place for everyone.
They just can't marry, right? They can't, you know, they don't want you to have a same-sex relationship, right? They would look at you as like an other, as a not them, right?
No, we don't judge other people. See, that includes no. So,
I don't know about
the
that.
Bible does not teach. So the Bible does not teach to judge each other. The Bible teaches that actually a lot of the Orthodox will tell you, if you go ask an Orthodox priest, you'll ask anybody who's an Eastern Orthodox, ask Anthony yourself, ask, do you think that you will be saved? And they will say that they don't know. They're not 100% sure. Why? Because we don't know until the day of judgment, right? I don't know until the day of judgment. I'm not the judge. So for me to then act like a judge on earth is incorrect. When I used to be a Catholic, the reason why I converted to Orthodox was because of that. Because Catholics hold this position of where judging each other within a community. They judge you if you didn't donate to the church, right? They judged you if you didn't have good clothes when you went to church. They judged you if they heard that your son was gay. They judged you. And that's a bad thing, right? That's a bad thing. But that is also supported by the fact that is what the church is teaching. And those are just not the classical Christian teachings, right?
All right. Well, I mean, I'm just pointing out that the Eastern Orthodox Church does hold traditional views on sexuality, right? They do condemn same-sex relationships and same-sex marriage, right? This is exclusionary and discriminatory at best, right? At best.
Sure. Okay, I can agree with you.
Can I say a thing? As somebody that grew up in a Orthodox, like Christianity, like my in Romania, which is an Orthodox Christian country,
So that's a bastion.
I have family members. Yeah, I have. I have family members that are priests, right? And I can tell you for sure, people judge each other. They judge each other on what clothes they wore in church, how many times they've been to church, what they're doing, how they're acting, like all these things that you said they don't happen in Orthodox Christianity, they do happen.
I didn't say it didn't happen. Wait, be careful. I didn't say it didn't happen. I'm saying it doesn't get teach as the ethical system. Whether or not that arises
it does.
from
It is.
extra
That's what I'm telling you.
factors. So where does the Orthodox Church, from what part of the Bible or from what teachings or what canon law do we teach that people should judge each other?
Oh, is that, you mean like if there's like written somewhere? Well, that's irrelevant. It's like
It's whether or not they do it is the question.
It's the
My
priest.
question is,
It starts with the priest.
I have a question. So if a Christian on the news goes out and kills someone, does that mean that the religion then teaches that?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay. So
what I'm telling you is that
even
it's
though
like the
that
way
there is
people
some-
behave.
So even though some Christians judge each other, that doesn't mean that the religion then teaches judgment of each other. So that's why I'm referring to what your claim is, that is there anything like labeled out in the religion where it says that we should judge each other? In the contrary, right?
Well, I mean, yes, of course it is, because earlier
Well,
you
it's not whether or not that we should judge each other, or whether or not it specifically says it. It's the religion causes that to be the case.
That's not true. So again,
all that no, but you've already acknowledged that the view you're already acknowledging that the view of LGBTQ issues regarding the Eastern Orthodox Church is holding traditional views on sexuality, same-sex relationships, and same-sex marriage, right? At best, from my perspective, that's discriminatory.
Correct, but that doesn't necessarily. Okay, but that's not the same as saying that about the judgment thing. Where those are two different conversations, right? But in terms of what you're mentioning, Amanda, my question to you is: you might see this as a societal negative, but in a sense where you have Christian ethics working within a secular nation, don't you think that this doesn't really have much of a basis? Because in reality, we're not disrespecting each other, nor do we promote violence against them. Just that if you were an Orthodox, you wouldn't be able to marry under that identity, right? You wouldn't be able to marry that person, right? You choose not to go to this religion because of that. You choose not to choose that ethic system. That's completely fine. Why? Because you're in a secular country. But in terms of the ethics, in the application of the entirety, right? The things that it teaches, the things that it does in terms of tradition, outside of that, hold a higher positive effect than it is a negative effect. That is the problem. Like, that's the thing that I'm focusing on, right? Is in terms of the societal benefit within a secular nation, is it not a beneficial thing? You said no. I'm saying yes, right? Even though, of course, things like this are extremely traditional, right? And they're not seen as very good in the modern day society that we live in. We don't promote violence like other Christian denominations or sects do, right?
This doesn't matter. It's still being discriminatory. I mean, like, at the end of the day, what you're like, okay, so like the way that I'm seeing this is like, well, you know, in the Bible, it does have verses on how to treat your slaves, right? And it was only until like what, the 1930s, 1940s, where the you know, they decided to dump the idea because it was just so unpopular, right? And it's like, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing right now. I'm a really small YouTuber and I'm really just trying to build up. And I really think that I'm going to be making more content and you're going to just see not just debates, but as well as content like this. So stay tuned to find out. Imagine if there was like somebody in the 1850s saying something like along the lines of, well, you know, we believe that they should be slaves, but we're not advocating killing them. We're not advocating treating them badly, which, by the way, was a common argument right back then. So, like,
you're being a little bit historically inaccurate because the church.
I'm not being historically inaccurate. That's absolutely historically accurate. I recommend you read a book on this topic.
I recommend you look at the messages posted by the Pope during the Spanish colonization of the 15th century and the 16th century. Right? It's not the 1930s that slavery is a question of the church. The church goes against slavery way earlier, right? Because it's negative. What it gets supported by is the state. I already made this thing. The state in itself continues slavery as a benefit to the state, right? and then uses the basis of Catholicism specifically to push it towards Latin America and North America, right? But that does not mean that the religion then teaches that. That what they're using is they're using a device, the religion, as a form of means to go and force these people into their society, right? And hold a monopoly of power on them. But that doesn't mean we teach that. And to go back to what I was saying, Daniel, in the Gospels, it is mentioned, right, that we are not to judge each other, right? In Luke's 6:37, judge not and you shall not be judged, condemn not and you shall not be condemned, right? And it also is mentioned in Romans 2:1, Corinthians, and there's one more, I think. There's even something in Judge.
Okay.
John 7:24, do not judge by appearances, but judge.
Hold on.
Right.
So we're getting a little off topic, but I really, really want to delve this home because I don't know why there is this defense of this, because to me, it's as clear as day, right? I read a book, right, that's called The Great Stain, Witnessing American Slavery by Noel Ray. Basically what this book was, or what I was reading, is a historical account that compiles firsthand narratives, documents, and perspectives on American slaveries. So there are individual accounts of not only the slavers.
You're going to be wasting your time telling me this. I have to interrupt you because you're wasting your time telling me this, because this is specifically Protestants. I told you the Protestants are a bad example. Why? Because they do
I'm not saying that the Eastern Orthodox. I'm trying to take it home, right? I'm not saying the Eastern Orthodox are doing that, right? I'm simply you're simply incorrect about the historical account. You're saying that it was not slavery was not justified, right? But it was, because this particular book is grabbing firsthand accounts and narratives, right? Diary entries from slavers as well as slaves. There were a minority of slaves that were able to read and write. Now, they would use, for example, laws regulating slavery, Exodus 21:2-11, and Leviticus 25:44-46, right? And the New Testament also includes passages where Paul instructs slaves to obey their earthly masters. That's in Ephesians 6:5, Colossians 3:22, and Titus 2:9, right? There's the curse of Ham, which is based on a misinterpretation of Genesis 9:20-27, where it says Noah is cursing Hanan, the son of Ham. Right? Is it pro-slavery theologians back then twisted that passage to claim that people of African descent were destined to be enslaved based on that passage. There were also defenders of slavery that argues that since Jesus and the apostles never called for the abolition of slavery, it must have been an accepted social institution. And then you have Southern preachers and theologians that defended slavery from the pulpit, arguing that it was part of God's natural order and necessary for a well-functioning society. And then...
What specific theologians? What specific theologians?
The Southern clergy. Okay, now I understand that these are, hold on. I understand that you're saying that the Eastern Orthodox Church, I'm not talking about the Eastern Orthodox Church in this aspect.
But you could.
The Bible,
the Romanian Orthodox
hold on,
Church,
wait.
Slaves.
The Bible was used to justify slavery historically. It absolutely was. That's not up for content, right? These are first-hand accounts, right? And I gave you the arguments to it. Right. I merely brought up the slavery thing because we were talking about the LGBTQ issues. Right. And what I was talking about regarding the LGBTQ issues was that they traditionally do not see it as something that ought to be done. That's the Eastern Orthodox Church. Right. That's how they feel about it. OK. And so basically, imagine the way that you're phrasing it is that you're saying, OK, well, the Eastern Orthodox Church isn't calling for the active harm of them. So therefore, they are morally correct in their position regarding same-sex relationships and same-sex marriage. However, imagine if there was like a slavery institution that says, listen, we're not advocating harming our slaves. In fact, the Bible says the exact opposite. It says to treat your slaves properly. Right? It is not biblical to treat your slaves. We're treating them fine, but they're still slaves.
Okay,
do you see the problem?
Biggest I understand the problem, but it's not really a problem. Why? Because first of all, right, in terms of this example that you just gave of slaves, okay, within the Protestant sense, which is the evidence that you're using, cannot be equivocated to what the Orthodox experience nor the Catholic experience. I told you, there are Pope official documents, right, of the Pope making multiple popes denouncing the slavery, right, by the Spanish Empire way earlier than slavery is even introduced in North America. The Russian Orthodox Church, even though it did have serfs for a very, very long time, especially the Russian Orthodox Church had serfs for a long period of time. During the 1860s, the Greek Orthodox Church completely disagreed with American slavery and denounced it, saying it was completely unchristian-like. Again, and another important thing here is, when we are specifically talking about Exodus and Leviticus, you need to make you need to understand what is the Old Testament compared to the New Testament, right?
I have already referenced Old and New Testament. You can't use this as a way to.
I'm saying, what is the difference though? Old Testament, specifically Exodus and Leviticus, right? Though part of the things that they talk about in terms of like what you shouldn't do, what you should do is Mosaic law. Mosaic law means law that was made during the time of Moses, right? Specifically the laws that God put down when Moses was alive and after, right? After the New Testament, after the revelation of Christ, right? The part of the prophecy of the Old Testament is that when the messenger or the Messiah, right, comes, he will fulfill Mosaic law. Okay.
But the New Testament is still there arguing slavery, and it is not like Jesus expressly condemned slavery.
Nor did he actually support it. So to say that the system
but given the fact of the silence on the topic, right, that left people thinking that it was okay.
But I'll make the concession that it is the state that uses religion as a device in order to justify slavery. But in reality, it's neither justified. The reason you have to also understand that slavery at this time, and even after the religion is established, is a device of the state. It is not a device used by the religion. It's not like 80% of the slaves or a majority of slaves owned at this time were of churches, right? Nor do you see that with serfs, right? Serfdom in Russian Orthodox, in the Russian state, wasn't majorly owned by Christian churches, and even if it was, most of it was the state.
I was trying to talk about LGBTQ issues, but I just want to be clear with you, right? Was the Bible used to justify slavery?
It doesn't mean it does, though.
Why is this so hard? This shouldn't be hard.
No.
I gave you first-hand accounts, right? I gave you sources that are independent.
Yes,
they are first-hand sources, right? So you have to, in order to be reasonable, you have to say yes to this question.
I already said yes to this question. That doesn't necessarily mean your point is...
No, you did not say yes to the question. You superseded it by saying that doesn't mean that the Bible condone... I just need you to say directly yes or no.
Yes. I'll say yes.
Thank you.
I'll say yes. Okay.
All right.
For the sake of the conversation, I already said yes beforehand. I told you.
No. Stop. You're doing it again. You're saying for the sake of the conversation. Just say yes. Yes to this.
No, but
right? It's a simple yes.
Yes, I already said yes.
Okay, cool. Good. Not for the sake of conversation. You legitimately believe that it is that. That is the case. It was used to justify slavery.
Yes, not by the Orthodox Church, by the Protestants.
Okay, I don't know if that's the case or not, but it doesn't matter. Like the whole point why I even brought this up, right, is because I'm talking about.
What was the original question, Amanda?
Huh?
Let's steal the argument. What was the original question of this conversation?
Well, I was having a concern regarding the fact that the Eastern Orthodox Church is openly discriminatory towards.
What was the basis? No. That's a point within the question. What was?
No, I'm saying that's the main. That was the reason why I brought up the slavery example, right? I'm using it as an analogy, right, to discriminate against individuals, right? And your argument is like, well, we're not actively arguing for harming of these people or treating them badly. We just treat them as like,
Why do you
second
think
class
that
citizens,
has
and
to
how
do with- wait,
kind of how
wait,
we did it with the
wait,
slaves, right? We did that for a
You-
long
you
time with the
answered
slaves. And it's like, I wouldn't find it to be particularly convincing to say, well, I mean, as long as they're not hurting the slaves, I'm sure it's fine. No, bro, they're slaves. They're treated as property. That's not appropriate. And it's not appropriate to condemn people on the basis of because they are with people of the same sex. It shouldn't be a problem.
So, Amender, so the problem here is, right? I'm going to ask the question one more time because I want to respond to what you just said, but I want to make sure that you answer my question, which was, what was the original question that I asked you at the beginning of the conversation that I said that this is something that we probably don't agree on? What was it? Do you remember?
Regarding, you were saying that what is wrong with the ethics of the Eastern Orthodox Church?
Yes, I said specifically what is wrong with Christian ethics in the sense of orthodoxy.
Yes. So
you
I
said
brought up the
absolutely.
LGBTQ issue, which is, to me,
What was
it's
your
like
response
you're
to that?
treating them as second-class citizens.
We heard that part.
and
I
I'm
got
not
that
here
part.
for it.
Wait. Don't monologue the same thing you just said. I'm just asking. And your argument that what you said after I asked you that question was that it's not beneficial to society, correct?
Yes.
You would say that it is
Yes,
not
it's quite
beneficial
harmful to
based on
society. Yes.
Evidence, yes, based on the evidence that you then provided after the fact, correct?
Yes.
Right, which included LGBT. The way that we treated first was the women.
Not treated, treating today, 2025.
Sorry, treated. Correct. Don't focus too much on the language. I make mistakes. Thank you. But then it was the evidence of slavery. Now, to go back to that fundamental point, which was Christian ethics being a benefit to society. Okay. When I was talking specifically about LGBT, when I was saying about the fact that they are not ordained by the actual church in terms of their marriage, they're not like consecrated by the church.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not such a morally wrong thing.
And by the way, if they happen to be gay, right, they may be interested
Mm-hmm.
in something like conversion therapy, right?
We don't push conversion therapy.
I
It's
hope
just
not.
something that you can. So no, we don't. And conversion therapy is actually much more of a Protestant way of thinking. And even so, it is based
Does the
off
Eastern
consent
Orthodox Church
of
do
you.
conversion therapy?
To my knowledge, within the United States, I haven't seen it. I don't know if they do, but even so, it's not like they're forced. They don't force people to do conversion. You'll have to answer that with me since you're searching that up. Maybe Anthony in the chat could also answer that for me. Okay, Anthony.
Okay,
said that
yes.
we
So
don't,
it looks
I'm
like
gonna-
some Orthodox clergy or affiliated organizations have supported and tolerated conversion therapy. Though there's not
Okay,
a
that's
universal endorsement. There's places like Russia, Greece, Serbia, Orthodox majority countries that openly backed anti-LGBTQ laws and support conversion therapy either directly or by promoting spiritual healing for homosexuality. Yeah, this is disgusting. I don't find this to be even remotely acceptable.
Okay, to go back to the point, okay. So just told you that we don't support specifically, right? Because it's
Some
showing
do,
a
some
kind of
don't.
uniform position on-
Some do, some
and
don't.
specifically, does it say in the U.S.? It doesn't. So that's where I'm talking from. Right? I'm talking about the diocese of the United States, right? So in the United States, Orthodoxy does not push the conversion therapy, nor is it accepted by by the churches here. Now, in terms of what we were talking about, I'm going to use an analogy in terms of explaining the LGBT thing. So, remember, the entire basis of this, the environment of where I'm making my statement of where Christian ethics are beneficial is the United States still being a secular country, okay? That's the important thing. I'm not talking about making a Christian nation like Andrew Wilson goes
Okay.
out to say, because I think that's wrong.
What about promoting? What about if like they're LGBT, right? You promote celibacy?
Can I ask you a question? So if I invite you to my house, right? Because I wanted to make an analogy before you ask me the question. I'll ask you the question after. Okay, so if I invite you to my house, right? And you walk into my house, and one of the rules in my house is that you cannot wear red. You can't wear red. You just can't wear red, right? But you're wearing red. And then I tell you, well, Amender, this is my house, and my rule is that you can't wear red. If it be okay, can you please leave, right? Or can you just change your shirt and come back? But if you tell me, okay, I'll just.
Do you see any
not come back,
difference
I'll
between wearing red and being gay?
So there are differences, but what I'm trying to say
What's the
is
difference?
the specific
What
thing
difference can you imagine between wearing a shirt, which can be freely changed, to being LGBT?
the analogy is supposed to focus on the fact that what we're talking about, the church ordaining a marriage, is the church doesn't force that on people. You go out to look for a church to ordain you.
Yeah.
If you go out and you walk into a church and you ask the priest, hey, can you marry us? And the church says, sadly, our traditions don't apply to you guys. But we live in a secular country where you can still get married legally, because you do not require the church to get legally married, as it was pushed earlier, right, in the form of Christianity, especially within Catholicism, right, and the Protestants, right? So how can this be then seen as morally bad in terms of the societal impact if it does not impact society, right? Homosexual relationships and marriages are not affected by this rule. Why? Because if they are not Orthodox, nor do they'll go find the Orthodox clergymen to ordain them, then how can it have a bad societal effect? What you're saying is that based off of your moral system, it is a bad thing. But if the conversation is about whether or not Christian ethics, specifically this Christian ethics system, is beneficial to society, this cannot have negative effects on it. Now, like I said, I concede to you on the fact that things like slavery have been justified by the Bible. Things like violence against homosexuality have been justified by the Bible. A lot of things have been justified by the Bible, including violence. The first Crusades, and all of the Crusades, actually, all 8 of them, were justified by the Bible, right? It was justified by religion, right? That doesn't mean that the actual ethical system is taught, right? That is people in power taking advantage of such a powerful device like faith, and then using that to control people. That does not then mean that the Bible supports that, right? This is a very important thing, because if I went out tomorrow and I said, hey guys, the Constitution supports this based off of this, but someone else reads and says, no, clearly doesn't, and I yell at them and I say, no, it does support this. It does.
Well, I got something to share with you, right? And I want you to look at my screen, right? I'm gonna share it. Do you see my screen?
Can you share it? Yeah, because I'm on my phone, so I won't be able to see it.
You should be able to see my screen. Yep.
Outside of marriage, yes.
Okay, so the Eastern Orthodox Church teaches that any sexual activity taking place outside of marriage is sinful, with certain activities within marriage, see below. Therefore, the Orthodox Church teaches that unmarried individuals should practice abstinence or celibacy, not having sex with anyone, including yourself. Those of us still not married do this to preserve the sanctity of marriage bond that God has established. There are 2 goals of celibacy to abstinence: to remain free of carnal pleasure and to orient your life toward God and away from the secular world. Now, when I scroll down here, it says, does abstinence include masturbation? Yes, abstinence includes masturbation. Since masturbation does not result in the creation of life or is self-directed, not focused on expressing love or concern for your husband or wife, it is a preservation of our sexuality. When you masturbate, you satisfy your own carnal desires, much like fornication, homosexuality, and pornography. So officially, right, by the St. John Evangelist Orthodox Church, right, here in the United States, their official position is your only option as a homosexual is abstinence. Now what? You find this appropriate?
I find this extremely appropriate. Yes. Because this is applying to all people, not just homosexuals. This is applying to everyone who is unmarried.
Bro, but it's literally targeting homosexuals. It's literally saying, hey, your love is not real, right? Your love is carnal, like masturbation. Really? You really think that this is appropriate?
This is the problem, though, Mender. So, Mender, this is the problem, though. I asked you a question on the benefit of Christian ethics in the society.
Yeah, I'm literally showing you the non-benefit. I'm saying that is the negative. This is not a benefit at all. This is a negative thing.
But you're no, that's not. No.
I literally cited a direct source straight from the American Christian Orthodox Church. So now what?
It doesn't, wait. Mender. You need to actually prove the negative effects of it.
The negative effects of celibacy? Oh, bro, I got you. Don't worry about that.
What I was trying to say was that you have to actually, what you're arguing, right, is how it is morally bad to follow this specific ethic, when that question has to do with whether or not the ethic actually supports society and it's a benefit to society. Okay? That is what you're focusing on. So if you want to argue
Give me a moment.
the question and the position,
Give me a moment. I'm going to find it for you. I got you, homie.
Sure.
Don't worry. Hold on. Just give me a second, okay?
Mm-hmm. Then there was something that Anthony brought up that I wanted to say in terms of slavery.
What do you think about the fact that the Romanian Orthodox Church actually owned slaves, and they were the last to actually own slaves in Romania?
So, like I said, the Orthodox Church, for most of its recent history, has actually owned serfs and slaves, depending on what Orthodox Church we're talking about. Russia and Romania included, also the Greeks. But the Greeks didn't own them for too long, right? And they're one of the biggest effects in terms of Orthodoxy in the United States, right? Like I said, a lot of the things that we're talking about in terms of slavery, it's not that religion justifies it, right? And doesn't mean that that slavery is a good thing, right? Just because the Bible doesn't say yes or no to the question. But I also do make the case from a theological standpoint that the Bible does say that slavery is bad, right? And Anthony actually brought
that's an
that
amazing
up.
answer. But can you actually answer the question that I asked you and not some other
Answer
question?
one more time. Maybe I didn't get it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Answer the second
So
question.
I asked you, what do you think about the fact that the Romanian Orthodox Church actually owned slaves?
Yeah, it's a bad thing. But I also would see, I would ask.
I'm going to also tell you that the Romanian Orthodox Church was using their theology to actually support the owning of slaves. And when the state, right, started the emancipation of slaves, they were resisted for a very long time to the emancipation of their slaves.
Can I ask you a question?
So, yeah.
If a church uses theology to support a negative thing like slavery, does that then mean that theological argument is correct, or should we consider it valid?
It's like who is the authority, whether or not the theological argument is correct or not.
Well, in the sense of the Orthodox
Is their
Church,
theological argument is like.
Okay, so their theological argument is not the argument of the entire church. So in order for something to be considered as
it was for the Romanian Orthodox Church.
Okay, can I explain to you something? In order for something to be considered as a doctrine of the church, the Church of Christ, it must be done, right, through the meeting of all bishops, right? It's called the Ecumenical Council, right? This is how decisions like these things come together. If a single church in the middle of nowhere, which clearly is not the case because a lot of Romanian churches had it. But my point I'm saying is, if when
I'm saying the church, I'm not referencing like a specific church. It's the Romanian Orthodox Church, right? The organization.
Yes. But what does that organization fall under? It falls under the Eastern Orthodox Church. So it is a
but they also can. Okay, so it's like it's a monocephalic church, right? They can do whatever the fuck they want, right? It's like they can have their own theology, right? At the end of the day, they are independent, right? So when they're reading the Bible,
you're not separate.
Dylan, it's like if you're not gonna let me even like respond and actually have like an argument, it's like it's pointless.
You actually haven't.
No, but it's like you keep talking and talking and talking, and I can't get a word in. It's like you didn't. That's the thing. Is like you didn't. Maybe you don't realize it, but you didn't.
But you're trying to.
And you keep saying I don't realize. You keep saying I don't realize. I don't understand, but I do. And it's like you're not gonna understand what I'm saying if you don't let me. Okay, cool.
You're saying
I'm just go speak with Amanda.
Okay, so
I'm not gonna bother anymore.
All right, I have it right here. Right, you said you wanted me to exhibit any potential harm, right? So again, I'll go ahead and link this in chat for everybody to see. I am not getting this from some BS source. This is journals.library.columbia.edu. It is a legitimate source right here. Undoing the damage, working with LGBT clients, post-conversion therapy. As a mecca of diversity, New York City has become one of the epicenters for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender and LGBT community. As such, LGBT-identified clients present in New York's counseling and mental health agencies with a cross-section of issues unique to the LGBT community. One of these issues is the deleterious effects of LGBT individuals face an experience with conversion therapy. Conversion therapy aims to alter a person's sexual orientation away from homosexuality into heterosexuality or celibacy. Clients seeking counseling after an experience with conversion therapy present distinct practice challenges that require special consideration in treatment. These clients may experience both sexual and spiritual identity crisis, symptoms of depression and anxiety, hopelessness, sexual dysfunction, and symptoms of post-traumatic stress. Integrative solution therapies, grief work, community-based interventions, and trauma work offer healing strategies for treating LGBT clients after conversion therapy. So,
Okay. You see,
is this bullshit?
So it's not bullshit, but you see how it's specifically talking about the effects of conversion therapy? But the
Nope,
church
it's
doesn't
talking
support
about celibacy as in into heterosexuality or celibacy. This is all part of conversion therapy. Celibacy is a performance of conversion therapy. Right? The current
it's
Orthodox,
talking about
you
conversion
said
therapy
initially, right, that you would like to see harm. There's harm. There you go. I showed you harm.
So
Now what?
It says conversion therapy aims to alter a person's sexual orientation away from homosexuality into heterosexuality or celibacy, right? That
Yes.
doesn't necessarily. Okay. Again, so first of all, even if you did establish the harm here, now you have to establish that it is societally more harmful than what the benefits of the Christian ethical system can make, right? Which I don't think is actually proven by the source that you put, even though that. In terms of the celibacy that we're talking about, right? We're talking about celibacy between individuals that for most of their life are children, right? Because most people will get married at a very young age under the Christian thing, right? A lot of Christians actually marry pretty early, right? Compared to Protestants and to other things. They actually marry later. And atheists as well marry later in terms of statistics. I don't have it on hand. So don't consider it as fact. I'm just saying that is what I saw. I might be wrong, and I'm not saying it as a fact, right? But one thing that I wanted to say about Daniel is I apologize if you were frustrated by me interrupting you. By the way, I would like to have that conversation with you. I don't want to seem so cold about it, but I was trying to explain that a local parish or a
I don't have any
have
studies regarding like the impacts of like celibacy versus just being openly LGBT, but like I fail to see like when you're talking about if somebody has the choice, right, and that they're not being openly antagonized into not being LGBT, right, they themselves can come to a conclusion as to what is best for their life, right?
Correct. I think that's amazing. Right?
Okay, so maybe exactly not argue celibacy as like a method?
Okay. But when we're arguing celibacy, we're talking about celibacy within our ethical system. So if you...
Yeah, okay, I'm showing that the ethical system results in negative outcomes. Right?
It doesn't.
Okay, forcing somebody into celibacy absolutely could.
We're not forcing people. We're not forcing people to do conversion therapy or celibacy.
What if they're if they're an Orthodox Catholic, they absolutely get coerced into doing that, right? Because the current Orthodox stance is to encourage celibacy for those who have those urges.
Encourage. See,
yeah, that's ridiculous. You think there's no pressure in that?
Not if you're first of all, not if you're a rationally thinking being.
We just have to agree to disagree. I don't know what to tell you, man. I think societal pressure absolutely factors in a huge role, and what somebody ultimately needs in situations like that is support from their local community, and based on the ethical standards of the Christian Orthodox Church in the United States, it does not result in better outcomes. It results in worse outcomes because of likely the societal pressures that are incurred from it. Right? That's not a hot take in me bringing that up.
Okay, but it kind of is in the sense that this
not
is a
at
system
all.
that doesn't force you. So we're not forcing you to be part of this ethical system. We're just saying that this is what is part of the ethical system. So if I post rules outside my house and I say, anyone can come into my house, but these are the rules of my house. And one of those rules is celibacy, right? If you then decide to come into my house and not be celibate, okay, I might even accept you. And the Orthodox Church does that. We don't We don't truly. If you
Okay,
just
but
don't
you're
tell us-
talking about like what is the problem with the ethics of the Orthodox Church, and there's a problem with the ethics of the Orthodox Church.
That's the problem. That's the problem. You're arguing that it is morally wrong. I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing that it's society. It's beneficial for society, right?
Okay, what
Within
is
the
harm?
secular society.
What do you think is harm? What's harm?
Wait, can you answer that though?
No,
like,
no.
You know that you're not arguing the same point that I'm arguing. That is why you're getting frustrated with me, because I understand your point and why it's morally wrong within your moral system. And I think to some extent it can be considered wrong by other people, and that's why I don't think that we should, my church nor my religion should force things on other people. If you don't
Okay,
want
so
to be
they're
celibate,
arguing in favor of celibacy for people who are gay. They actively encourage it. It's right there on their website. We know it causes harm. Why can't we just acknowledge, hey, this moral system isn't as good as like a secular humanist perspective? Like a secular humanist is going to look at a person who's LGBT and say, there's nothing wrong with you. You can live your life as you see fit, right? Here's a condom. It tends to be a little riskier being LGBT. That is far better than the potential than the potential problems that are incurred by not embracing someone's identity.
The problem is though, and I think we're going to have to agree to disagree, because I think what you're doing is, first of all, you kind of introduce two different arguments into one, right? Because I'm talking about the societal benefit, and it seems like you're trying to base your argument of why it's not beneficial for society based off your moral arguments why
no, I'm saying you're providing a social pressure that doesn't need to be there, and so some people that will cause harm to them because they don't want to do that.
It is not like the divine liturgy, yeah. But when you go to the Orthodox Church and you go to divine liturgy, you're not actually taught to be.
Can you at least agree that celibacy can cause depression? Do you believe that celibacy causes depression? Yes or no?
So, I would say yes, but there's definitely more factors in play, right? If you want to make the case that it's just celibacy causes depression, I'm going to argue no, because I've actually not seen any.
Well, there's lots of things. There's lots of things that causes depression. That's beside the point. I'm simply pointing out that hey, if you force people, or if you say hey, you have to do celibacy because that's what God intends, right? Because your style of love is sinful. Yeah, that absolutely is going to cause a great deal of depression. Like what?
Yeah, but we've seen actual benefits within Christian communities.
But that's a negative thing. That's not good. And you're defending it.
It's not a negative thing. You know why? Because
it is a negative thing. You're forcing people and sending them into depressive fits because they can't be who they want to be.
You don't actually have
right, and it's not a red shirt that you could just take off.
Okay, you see how you haven't actually made a claim and you haven't actually supported it with evidence. You
what? No, you're not going to say that. I did support it with evidence. I was very direct with it. I gave you direct sources from your side, and I provided sources from the psychology. Do not say I didn't provide evidence. I did.
But you provided evidence for something else that we were just talking about.
I'm talking about the negative effects of applying ethics from a Christian worldview, specifically from the Eastern Orthodox perspective. And yes, I did provide sources.
Amanda, you're not allowing me just to finish. Just give me like 30 seconds. Okay.
Go ahead.
Then you could completely just agree to disagree. Okay. What I am saying is you haven't provided evidence on the specific claim that I have made that within the Christian ethic system, right, or people that are Christian, that celibacy has been negative, right? You have established that celibacy in terms of a societal thing can be bad, right? And I have seen science and research that suggests that, right? A lot of it actually, right? And that actually being open about your sexuality is actually extremely benefit for your social sense in society. But in terms of a Christian sense, we actually see good evidence that people that practice celibacy and are Christian, right, are happy. They're happy that they're not depressed just because they're celibate.
Yeah, some are. I won't even tell you that there are some that may actually be just fine being celibate. That is not the case for all people. Right. So when you send people to be celibate, right, people can come to the choice to be celibate if they want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. But however, like to sit there and say that like that the societal pressures don't exist as a result of the Eastern Orthodox Church, that's wrong. And there's certain people where that would not work and actually result in quite deleterious effects. It's not a good outcome. Right?
Okay,
I'm simply saying, hey, give people the choice. And you're saying, well, no, they got to listen to the church because the church's morals are correct.
Can I ask you a question? No, that's not necessarily always true. The church is not almost always right. It depends. This is the same thing I was going to tell. I was actually going to talk to Daniel right after this, is about specifically what he was mentioning about the Romanian church, right?
Yeah.
When the Romanian church takes a different opinion about something compared to the rest of the Orthodoxy, right? And this has happened before, right? But my question I'm asking you is there societal pressure of people to join Orthodoxy in the United States?
Is there a societal reason to join the Eastern Orthodox Church? Yeah, it's usually because
is there
of
societal pressure
to join the Eastern Orthodox Church. If your parents are Eastern Orthodox, yeah.
I said societal pressure.
Yeah, that would be a societal pressure, right? Your parents are a societal pressure. Yes.
In the aspect of one person, but I'm talking about in terms of...
Yeah, you're the one person, and your parents are making you be celibate because you're gay.
Okay, I'm going to be completely honest. I think we have to agree to disagree. I thought I could change your opinion about this, just this specific thing about Christianity, but I guess I'm not going to be able to. All I'm going to say is this. I think that you have to analyze it point by point outside of just the sexuality conversation and about celibacy. I think that there also are some very good points in terms of the Christian ethics system that I didn't even get to, right? Like about worth ethic, right? Or about the way that Christianity teaches good things in terms of your health, in terms of your work, things like that, separate from the fact that you have to have certain faith in certain things. Also, the fact of using the basis of the Old Testament, I think is a little bit bad, right? Because the Old Testament is law, mostly Mosaic law that has already been fulfilled by Christ dying on the cross. When Protestants come out and use the Old Testament, they're doing it because they don't even know. They honestly don't even know about the prophecy, and they don't understand what Christ taught, which was forgiveness and love and all of that. And what I'm trying to do is just say, well, the Orthodox Church, we have our traditions. You might disagree with them. I still love you, and you can hate me, but I'm not gonna do anything wrong to you, and nor do I wish harm.
I don't hate you, Dylan. I just don't like the church.
No. Of course, I'm not saying that. I know why you're.
I don't like religion in general. I think religion results in all sorts of horrible things, exactly like this. And none of the religions are really particularly like convincing to me. Like they all appear to do the same weird backward stuff that's like, results in pretty negative outcomes empirically, and it's often ignored because my book says so. Right? It literally has nothing to do with any empirical analysis. It's an unchanging moral system.
All I will say is this, Amanda. I will try one more time but I will invite you. All I'm saying is, I think you should look to see the actual societal benefit of the ethical structure in terms of a general sense more than focusing on specific things that you already have a basis of saying. Not necessarily a bad basis, by the way. I'm not saying that just because you're coming in already knowing that doing anything against saying things against transgender or women or homosexuals is a bad thing, that might influence you. I'm just saying you're kind of coming into that and already judging that person. I think you should see the human aspect behind it, but also see the practicality of that ethical system.
What?
Now, Daniel, you mentioned
I am showing you the human aspect of it. It's like, hey, people who can't control it, we shouldn't be discriminatory towards people over things they cannot control. Right? That's the human
Daniel,
aspect.
I got you. We're going to agree to disagree, and I guess I'll just talk to you about it another day, right? Because I want to actually find some more evidence and probably talk about this point a little bit bigger. Now, Anthony, you mentioned about the Romanian church, and Daniel, sorry. You have mentioned something about the specific Romanian church, but in terms of its decision and theological doctrine that it established. Now, I apologize for interrupting you, but the point that I was trying to make is that you're kind of not understanding the independency that the said Romanian church has, because it has somewhat of an independency, but in reality, it does not have a total, complete independency from the Church of Christ, which in this case is the Eastern Orthodox Church, right? And Anthony has mentioned it in the side chat. I think you guys are having a conversation about it. It's that synods, right, are the basis
the synod. Not synods, it's the synod.
Sorry.
And it's irrelevant. As I wrote to Anthony, it's irrelevant. The way you judge
Why is it
people's
harder?
ethics are by their actions. If their actions is to have slaves, it doesn't matter if they have a paper where they agreed, oh, you should not have slaves, if they have slaves, right? Because the ethics is what you do, not what you say. You could say a lot of things. You could be anti-rape and then just go ahead and rape people, right? At like a words level, you could be, oh my God, rape is so bad. And then you just go and rape people. It's like, it's whatever.
Chill on the arse.
I just like it.
Just do sexually
I'm
assault
just
or
saying,
something.
right? Like, yeah, sexually assault, right? It's like you can do a lot of things, right? You can say a lot of things and then do the exact opposite. Okay, so what I care is not about what people say. I care about what people do, right? And their actions. And the actions specifically of the Orthodox Church of Romania, right? The Romanian Orthodox Church clearly made it, that, they actually condoned slavery because they practiced slavery and they were against the emancipation of the Roma people in Romania, right? They were literally the last to own slaves in Romania, right? And the only reason they didn't have slaves anymore is because they were forced to emancipate their slaves by the power of the state, right? At the end of a gun, right? The state just came and said, nah, you're not going to do this anymore.
Okay, so the problem though is the way that decisions are made in terms of theology within the Orthodox Church are very, very important, especially when we're talking about this. When the Romanian Church decides to do this and actually opposes the state, which in reality holds the view that we actually hold today in terms of the Orthodox Church, right? Look, I understand where you're coming from, but the ethics of the ethic system, the ethical system that is being shown by Christianity, isn't actually based off of people's actions. It's based off of how it guides people to make decisions and live their lives, right? So when the specifics that we're talking about within that ethical system is that you should treat people with love, right? And you should do this and this and that, right? And it never says you should own another person. You should submit another person to this. The Bible doesn't say that, right? The Bible makes other things, right? Like it explains slavery and how slaves should be treated, right? Which, again, focuses on the fact that slaves shouldn't be mistreated. Also focuses on this.
There shouldn't be slaves. I mean, this is the problem that I'm having.
There shouldn't
It's like
be
the problem that I'm having is that
Bible-
you're trying to, just a second. It's like you're trying to say that there's this very nice, like Christian ethics that we should all abide by, right? And it's like one of those things in the past, as a Christian, was like, oh, slavery is fine, slavery is okay. It's like, I mean, it says in the Bible doesn't tell you thou shalt not own human people as property. It says how to treat the slaves. Therefore, it condones it, right? Because it says, okay, you can have people as slaves, just don't beat them so they die in 2 or 3 days, okay? So that was the Christian ethic back then. And you know what we did, right? The Renaissance came, Illuminism came, and we said, you know what? Yeah, maybe owning people as property is not a cool thing. Maybe we should stop doing that. And then Christianity took that was outside of Christianity at that point, and said, oh, since everybody doesn't like us because we actually say you should have slaves, now we should say maybe it's not good to have slaves, right? And now you're pretending this idea of not owning human beings as property is somehow comes from Christianity, when in reality it doesn't. It comes from outside of Christianity.
So a very important thing here is, and you said it in the side chat too, about me basically having this romantic idea of how the church is. It's not romantic. I'm just saying it in this. I'm just explaining it in this attitude because, like, I feel like it's a better way of doing that rather than just saying this and this and this and that. But I will admit there are hiccups in the road of the histories of all churches, right? There is no, there of course not, and there have been major hiccups, right? And I'm not trying to. Sorry, let me not say hiccups because then you might be saying that, oh, you're trying to diminish it. No. There have been huge problems within the Orthodox Church, okay? And I have admitted that, right? And it's part of its history. You can't just completely remove it, right? Like there have been huge problems within the Catholic Church and the Protestants and everybody, right? There's problems within all these churches, right? But there's even problems within other things as well, political ideologies, right? Within liberalism and all this, right? When I'm specifically talking about this this position, right? In terms of what you're implying is Number one, the Bible, the actual ethical system, theologically speaking, does not support. It does not support people owning slaves, right?
Yeah, but are you gonna go? Are you gonna do now
No, it's
what you
supported.
accused Protestants in the U.S. of doing and going sola scriptura?
No, I'm not going sola scriptura,
No.
but also
Then we, if you don't go sola scriptura, then you're also gonna go about what the church actually
doctrine
did,
doesn't
right?
teach us. No, but the church doctrines don't actually teach
No,
that either.
the actions. Again, I don't care about words on a page. I
that's
care
important.
about people's actions, right?
You said, okay, so the decisions made by the church are not important, but their actions are. But their decisions.
Yeah, let me
their
put it
actions are
another
based
way,
off the
so you
decisions.
can understand it, Dylan. Because it's like that's when I said you have a very romantic idea about the Orthodox Church. It's like I said it for a very good reason. Okay, so I was a believer, right? I was a believer, and you know what? And I was like reading the Bible, believing everything, and all this good shit, right? You know what it made me? The Romanian Orthodox Church and its ideology made me a homophobe, a misogynist, right? And a racist. That's what it made me. So when you come now and tell me, oh my God, there's this like very nice Christian ethics, that's coming from the Orthodox side of Christianity. Don't look at this Protestant shit that's, it's the same. I literally, as a person that, was raised in a predominantly Orthodox country, I can tell you there's literally no difference between, especially the Romanian Orthodox Christianity and evangelical Christianity in the US. And this is exactly the reason why right now, evangelical movements from the US have a really fucking good time in Romania, right? And they're hand in hand with the Romanian Orthodox Church because they all believe the same things. They all believe, gay people shouldn't have rights. They all believe women are inferior. They all believe, there's like white people are the best race. Okay? So what a synod said or didn't say, or what you think it says in the book or it doesn't say in the book is absolutely irrelevant when the actions of the people that form that group, are this way. So I'm sorry. It's like, I don't care about like, some, theological masturbation when it comes to these things, because reality is the one that's more important. Reality trumps like any kind of like philosophical point you want to make.
Look, and I understand completely your point. So I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make a concession and say that clearly I need to know more about what specifically the Romanian church has done in this aspect and what this relationship that you're establishing with the evangelicals. Because I'm not going to speak on something that I do not know of. But I will say this. I think it's really important that if these actions were taken, where do these actions? How are they? How were these actions established? Right? What decisions within the church made it? Was it a person? Was it a group of people? Was it the society forcing them to do this? Right? Like we had to see what pressures force these actions to happen. Right? They might be pressured. They might have just been one clergyman, or it might have been the entire country agreeing that this is the way that it's going to be. Right? So since I don't know enough, I'm not going to make a claim on why it happened. Right? Because I would be completely disingenuous. But I want to share the fact that I understand your experience, right? Because it's similar to my experience within Catholicism, right? When I was in the Catholic Church, right, I was taught similar things that what you were taught, right? I was taught that a man and a man shouldn't be together, or a woman and a woman. I was taught many things like that made me extremely wrong, and even other things. The judgment was the biggest thing, right? The fact that
Wait. Do you believe now that it's okay for a man and a man to be together?
I think it's okay for a man and a man to be together.
Is that based on like any scripture? Is it based on any like teaching of the Orthodox Church? That would be amazing.
That's based on I can't speak for uncertainty of that, but in terms of specifically my position when it comes to it, my thing is based off the fact that I, first of all, do not judge other people. That's not my position. Second, I am taught to love others. I am taught to love other human beings, no matter the situation, right? If a human being hates me, I will love them, no matter of that condition of hate, right? I might be persecuted by another human being, but I will not lose a love for that other human being, right? Because they are a human being, right?
I don't know, but we're talking specifically about like a very specific group of people. like gay people. Because I can tell you a thing, it's like earlier you're saying that it's like, the Orthodox Church is not going to marry people of the same sex, and that's fine. I think it's fine for them to not do that because of tradition or whatever bigoted position they have. It's irrelevant, and I wouldn't even care about that. The thing that I care though is, like, for example, in my country, one of the biggest obstacles in legalizing same-sex marriage in my country is actually the Orthodox Church.
I have a comment.
Right?
I think it's being directed at Dylan. So I want to tell me what you think of what this person says. He says, essentially, when good things happen, that's because Christianity is good. And when bad things happen, it's because of everything else.
So the problem with that is it seems like you really didn't, that person did not really understand what I was trying to mention, right? A lot of the decisions made by Christians have been based off Christianity. It's not based off of other things, right? All I am saying is that there have been different interpretations of the said Bible that have been used by people in order to make certain decisions or make certain or to do certain actions that in our society today we consider morally wrong, including slavery, right? The problem though with slavery, right, is that there actually is not a basis in the actual Bible that argues that you should own slaves or that it is morally right. It just doesn't touch on that topic because slavery just wasn't a device of the church at the time of when the Bible was written.
It's just
when
not
the Gospels
correct.
were written, and the New Testament
You've already agreed with that it does promote slavery.
It does not. I said that it has been used to promote slavery. That was the question you
How
asked.
does it not promote slavery then? To me, that's like one and the same thing. Like
that's not the same. That's not the same thing. If a guy goes out and uses the Bible to promote slavery, and then people agree with him, right? That's not the same thing as me saying that. Look, right here, written in Leviticus, it tells you you should own slaves, and it's a good thing. Those are not the same situation.
But
those are completely
in
separate.
the Bible, it does say these things.
Okay, where does it say in the Bible that you should own slaves and it's morally right?
It tells you where you buy.
All right, I got it right here. Yeah, I'll provide that right now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
You can just read it to me because I'm driving right now. So
yep. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Leviticus 25:44-46. Mm-hmm. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living amongst you and members of the clans born in your country, and they will become your property. You can bequeath them to your children as inherited property and can make them as slaves for life, but you must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly.
Okay. Number one, this is Old Testament, which is important, right? Because we do not follow this law currently because this is laws and the way the society works.
Yeah, but you're moving the goalpost, by the way.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you
but
are.
let's okay. You know what? Forget about what I just said. You see how it says that you may, right? It specifically is giving people a choice.
Permission.
Right.
Permission.
Sorry.
Permission.
Yes. That doesn't mean it's okay. So that doesn't mean promote. That doesn't mean it's promoting it.
What?
You're arguing that
okay,
it's promoting it.
If I told somebody, right, hey, you may smoke crack,
this is like
am I promoting smoking crack?
No.
What?
No,
that is wild, dude. The freaking mental gymnastics are insane.
Okay.
I don't get it. I really don't. Help me out.
Okay, because the way that I'm thinking about it is that if we're talking about promoting something, right, that's like me going out and telling every crackhead, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this is that. That's promoting. Yeah. Now, me telling...
wait a second, Dylan. If the U.S. government right now, if the U.S. government has like this campaign, right, and on TV, on TV, right, like every day, right, like 10 times a day, on TV, like on every channel at the same hour, you have this ad, right, that says you may buy your PCP or like fentanyl from the dealer at your local corner, right? Do you think that would be understood as
It's
the
not
U.S.
same thing. So
government
what you're doing is
promoting
promoting
drugs?
in that case,
Hard
it
drugs?
is. But what you're doing is you're grabbing both aspects of the example that I just gave beforehand and putting them together in this analogy. So it's not a good equivocation.
No, I wasn't making an analogy. I was like, first of all, I was asking you if you would think that if they said that, that would be equivalent to them promoting.
because they're campaigning. They're campaigning.
Oh, no.
somewhere. The
No,
Bible
but they
is
just
not
put it
I mean,
in there,
there's
right? It's the
verses
same,
regarding
like,
gay
back then they didn't
sex
have
and
TVs.
laying with a man in Old Testament.
That's different.
So, why is
that's
that different? Huh?
Oh, wait, because it directly says, right? There's directly says it's not permission.
Yeah.
And it's specifically saying that. But even so, going back to what I
Mm.
was saying about, even though you're going to say it's moving the goalpost, Mosaic law has been fulfilled by Christ, right? So we don't.
Yeah, but
follow
in the
these-
Old Testament it says it's bad to, but we don't. Do you see my problem?
I see your problem, of course, but it's not the same thing. I can see your problem, and again,
But it's Old Testament. We should ignore that, right? Because the Mosaic law has been fulfilled by Jesus Christ.
That's not what I said. Wait. That's not what I said. I didn't say we should completely ignore Mosaic law.
Oh, okay. So
Christ
we
does
we basically
parts of
picky
law.
choosy what we believey weavy, and that's okay, right? Things that make us uncomfortable, we choose not to believe that. But things that that seem to argue in our favor, we don't ignore that.
We also think that it's uncomfortable to stone a woman because of adultery, but we would agree that that's a morally right thing, right? Like to not do that. We would agree that's it's morally right for us not.
Yeah. This is why I have a problem
There's a lot of
with
things.
religion in general. Yeah,
This is why I'm saying we're
it
gonna have to
frequently
agree to
causes
disagree.
people to come to
you're
conclusions
getting it
that are
correctly.
that are frequently false. Like even something as like as so black and white as like spanking, for example. There's so many. There are verses that argue in favor of spanking in the Bible, and even to this day, Eastern Orthodox, non-Eastern Orthodox, doesn't matter. They argue in favor of spanking. Yet there's tons and tons and tons of evidence that show the negative effects of spanking and that there are better ways to go about it. Right? To this day, it is a consistent thing that I have to fight against, specifically regarding religious people. This is my issue, man. The morals are backward, right? And they're backward because they're following a 1,500-year-old book for their morals, right? Instead of like operating on like,
That's not true, though.
evidence and like knowledge.
This is the problem. You're saying that it's kind of like a picky choosy situation.
Yeah, it
This
is.
yes, this no. This yes, this no. It's a little bit more advanced than just saying it's a picky choosy thing, right?
No,
You
it
can laugh
kind
at
of
me all
is
you
that
want,
though,
but
because like
what
in
I'm
the
saying
Old
is-
Testament it says
in a sense-
gay.
No, wait. Like I just said, in a sense it is, but it's more complicated than that, right? So we looked at the. I mean, you can laugh at me, but all I'm saying.
I'm
is-
sorry. I just find it incredible. Like I don't find this convincing at all.
Okay, fair. Like I said, we can agree to disagree. I'm not going to be able to fully convince you. I mean, that's clearly the case, right? So
I
mean,
prefer the word
only thing I'm gonna
indoctrinate.
say though-
I'm sorry. I'm
I'm
just
not
being
trying to
I'm just being
indoctrinate no
snarky.
one.
I'm being snarky. I'm sorry.
Okay, I got you.
You're a
I
nice
don't-
guy. I appreciate you.
I don't agree. Thank you. I appreciate you too, Amanda. Don't get frustrated with me. I'm not Andrew Wilson. I'm not. Well, there's a lot of other people that.
No,
you
you're a
would
lot
probably
nicer
say.
than Andrew Wilson. It's not even close.
You know, Andrew Wilson's Orthodox, right? Like it's.
Oh,
completely
good.
different,
Oh,
right?
good. He's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah,
Great.
no.
Hey, man.
Yeah, no.
You're the one going up to bat.
Never say that to people. Okay,
Yeah, never
that.
say that again to people. Yeah. For sure. I would not say that to people.
Or tell them he's Orthodox and or Catholic, right? Is at least that.
No, I'm gonna say that he's Catholic. He's an Orthodox Catholic, which is not a real thing.
Also, but I also will assume that the type of Catholicism you experience in the U.S. is very different from the Catholicism you could experience in Italy, for example. I lived in Italy for like 8 years, and what I can tell you, Italian Catholicism was like way more tolerant than Romanian Orthodoxy.
So the reason why that's not necessarily true is that I'm not an American like Catholic. I'm Spanish. I'm Latino. So a lot of the similar teachings within the Italian Catholicism and the Spanish Catholicism.
Where does your
is the one
family
that
Where
is-
does your family come from?
Amanda, do you not remember this?
I don't.
We had a whole conversation.
I mean,
So
she's
I'm
Uruguayan, right?
Uruguayan.
from
Yes,
Uruguay.
thank you, Daniel.
Okay.
Oh my God, Daniel. Wait, that
I
actually
have good
was-
memory, man.
So hold on. Wait, hold on a sec.
I
Hold on.
remember. I remember.
So-
I know Mender's name.
Let me
He's from Chile. Like,
ask you
I-
this. Let me ask you this. I think this is probably even more pertinent, right? I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do you think you're like Catholic as opposed to like, I don't know, Buddhist?
Why I was Catholic? I
Like
don't
your
know how I'm
parents come
Catholic.
from, are you born in Uruguay or you
No, I was not born in Uruguay. I was born in the U.S. But my
You were born in the
parents
US.
were immigrants.
yeah. And they were Catholic, right?
My mom was Catholic, and my dad was technically he's agnostic. He was never baptized, nor that he agrees that there's a God. He's just that type of person. You know what I mean? My mom is.
He wouldn't be agnostic if he believes that there's a God, but
I think I
okay.
would- no, well, not the Christian God, just a God, right?
Oh, he was a deist.
That would at minimum make him a deist. It's not a
Okay.
Anyway-
well, just say
anyway,
he's not
regardless.
agnostic.
it's the okay.
It's an internal term.
So
Yes.
okay. Here's I guess like if you're Uruguayan and you just happen to be the one religion that conquistadors forced on the mestizo populations, I guess like my own internal thoughts would be like if I was a Catholic like you, and my parents come from a country that is conquered by conquistadors that were Catholic, right? To me, I would say the reason why I'm Catholic is because conquistadors did it. They forced natives to become Catholic by the end of a sword and by the end of a gun. And now everyone's
Not
Catholic.
necessarily.
No,
Wait, wait, wait.
100%.
Wait,
That's why a majority
Wait,
of them are Catholic.
Wait.
That's not a hot take.
Forced to be Catholic. They would be forced to be Catholic, but there is also the societal thing. Like a lot of what it wasn't just when the conquistadors showed up. It was actually when the Catholic missionaries show up. What the Catholic missionary does across the Americas is overpower, right, the indigenous religions that exist, right? What they did is they basically said, oh no, you're completely wrong, right? And when you try to argue with them, no, you're wrong, this is right. And they would involve themselves within everyday life. Another thing, Uruguay specifically, right? The conquistadors didn't convince people to be Catholic. You know why?
What?
Because they basically because they killed 95% of the native indigenous people in Uruguay. They almost killed all of us off, right? A lot of people in Uruguay are actually their descendants are not even native to the land. They're mostly Spanish and Italian. Why? Because the Spanish actually killed a lot of the natives in Uruguay. They're called the Charruga, right? And so the Charruga were killed off by the Spanish when they came, specifically because the Charruga were not accepting of the authority. And even, I think it was only like 200 years ago, the last Charruga that was like full-blooded Charruga actually was sent to France as an exhibit. Like, search this up. I think this was like in the 1800s. A Uruguayan indigenous person, like the last one, was put into a cage and sent to France as part of an exhibition. Like, that is so horrible. So horrible. But yeah, no, most of them got killed off. It was mostly the Spanish and the Italians that already came, that were already, like, as Amanda would say, indoctrinated with this belief system before they even got to colonize the place. It was the intermarriages too, right? The interracial marriages. The children would also come out Catholic, right? So it wasn't really that difficult. You didn't really have to shoot people to become Catholic in Uruguay. You already killed off almost all the indigenous religions, and like at 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2 generations.
You've got like 10% of the story here, right? You're not talking about the 17th to 18th century of Jesuit and Franciscan missions, right? Where in the 1600s, the Jesuit and Franciscan missionaries, they converted indigenous people, specifically the Guarani, who are more receptive to Spanish influence,
So they're
and
not native
they
to Uruguay.
established
Guarani.
reducciones in present-day Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil, and which also extended into Uruguay. The Charrua, which is what you're referring to, right? They resisted Catholic conversion and Spanish control, and that they had a nomadic lifestyle warrior culture. However, that doesn't really actually matter because the Spanish crown sought to integrate indigenous people into colonial society and forced labor and conversion, and many of the Charrua resisted and were eventually decimated by disease, conflict, and direct extermination campaigns. So you sitting there telling me that it's like they didn't force, the Catholics didn't force them to become Catholic. No, they kind of did. They did exactly that. And that's why a majority of, that's why a majority.
That is not what I said. Wait.
What? Then what did you say?
I did not say that. You said that they were turned Christians by the point of like a conquistador sword. All I said was, that's not true. They just killed the indigenous people. They just killed the Charruga.
What? That's force. What do you mean? What is it? I don't care if it's sword or or stick. It doesn't matter. They're still killing people, and that's why they're Catholic, right? And I'm saying that consequently, you're just you're basically a matter of your environment. Your mom was Catholic. They likely have probably influenced your decision making. Like this isn't hard to figure out.
Okay, so the problem here is, I just told you, most of the Uruguayans that you're referring to, like today, a lot of the reasons why they are Catholic is because they are descendant of interracial marriages that results in either a guy marrying a Uruguayan woman and then having a kid and making him Catholic, right? Or Catholic colonizers from Spain and Italy coming into Uruguay, right, and just being Catholic and just continuing the religion, right? The Jesuits and the Franciscan missionaries also had an effect, but particularly, like it says in the art. I think I'm guessing you're reading. I don't know
what you're on about, right?
I'm not arguing.
We can all agree. We can all agree
they just
that
exterminated them.
Well, they did. They did. Over hundreds of years, they did. They exterminated them, right? And then that's why a majority of people are Catholic in Uruguay. Right?
Yes.
You don't have Charrua going around and resisting Catholics, right?
Not anymore.
Almost everybody is Catholic, right? And I ask you, it's like, why are they that way? Well, yeah, I mean, conquistadors, they did exactly that. That's what they did.
And a lot of the native Brazilians that mixed in with the Uruguayans, right, were also taught because of the Jesuits and the Franciscan missionaries, right? Because remember, Uruguay was a much larger country than it was. Right, Uruguay is not just the current state that it's in. It actually included the southern, the whole southern state of Brazil. So there was a lot of Brazilians as well that mixed with the Uruguayans.
I didn't want to get into like a long lesson regarding what happened. Right,
well,
hold on. I'm simply pointing out. Right, my concern is that it is not a long stretch to say that you may likely believe in Catholicism. Not because of like, oh, it's like the best thing ever, but probably you're more of a product of your situations, just like I'm a product of my situation. Like, let's be honest, I probably would not be an atheist, right? If the world was extremely antagonistic in the Western world to atheists, right? Like I can't openly be atheist, right? If people would kill me for being atheist, right? I would probably just say, okay, yeah, I'm not an atheist.
So, Mender, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think this is a hot take. I'm not disagreeing with you. All I was trying to make a joke was that we weren't like the people that were native to Uruguay weren't really converted. They were just killed.
Of course they were converted. What do you mean?
No, a lot of them were.
Yes, I literally just explained to you that they were directly converted. Do you need a source? Are you serious?
Mender, the Charrugas were.
That was only for the Charrua, but that's not the case for the Guarani, and that's not the case for a majority of the people that managed to survive.
But we're talking about native Uruguayans, and the Charrugas are the indigenous people of the Uruguay.
The Guarani are also indigenous people to Uruguay. What do you mean?
No, No, they're not. The
Yes, they
Charrugas
are.
were the main dominant indigenous. So please, I would like you to link that source. The one where it says the Guarani are the native people, are also another major native group in Uruguay. Because the Charruga are the dominant native indigenous group. That doesn't mean that there weren't other natives. I'm just saying Charrugas are the indigenous Uruguayans, right? We don't call Argentinians.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll give you that, right? They were like the Charrua are the major one. I agree with you.
To be completely honest, we could still the result is still the same, whether or not like it's not a.
I'm saying that you're likely a product of your environment, right? And to me,
yeah, no, like I agree with you. I honestly, it's all based off of a joke I was making. I was making a joke of like Spanish colonialism, and you took it like I was trying to argue about something. It's not.
I don't know what you're trying to argue at this point. I really don't.
I'm not. I made a joke.
Okay.
I made a joke that the Spanish just killed people instead of just converting them, and you focused too much on the joke. It was not completely serious. I'm not making a full claim. I'm a historian. I would know not to just make a claim like that without any evidence. But even so, even if there were other people, the Charruga, majority of them, were exterminated, right? That doesn't mean that no missionary converted them. A lot of them did. And a lot of those Charrugas were then integrated into colonial societies as well. This is why there are people like myself, because through my dad does have a native Charruga in him, right? My mom does not. My mom is a product of Spanish and Italian colonial settlers coming in. My dad is actually descendant from native Charrugas, right? And from native Brazilian. I don't remember what specific group it was, though. I would have to come back to you on that, but I don't think this is fairly an interesting conversation.
All right, well, I don't agree with the ethics of Christian ethics. I think it's
like
wrong.
I said, we're gonna agree to disagree. Yeah, I'll just we'll just have to do it like that. And I guess Daniel, I forgot what the last point we were talking about, but if you want to ever talk more about that, I'm so down to do that. But I'm pretty sure we completely forgot where we're at. Okay, guys. Well, I'll let you guys go. Yeah, well, I'll let you guys go. Okay?
All right, well, hold on. Before you go, I got a shower thought for you. Shower thought? Nice. Yeah, it's a shower thought.
Uh-huh. No, I don't like that.
All right.
Wait, did the Charrugas have showers or?
Well, it's a shower thought for him. So somebody gave me this shot, but it's a shower thought, total shower thought. So why?
Specifically for me, or?
Yeah, it's for you, Dylan. Why would God go out of his way to put the go button in the bum for guys? I want to know. You want to know my hypothesis?
What is your answer, Amanda?
For the same reason why God would put the tree of knowledge right in the middle. Right in the middle of Eden. He's just like, come on. Come on. Do it. You know you wanna.
Oh my God. Come on. You know you want it.
All right. Okay. Now I want to know, why would God go out of his way to put the go button in the bum for guys? That's a legitimate question.
That's a legit question. I mean, it's the same thing as like people saying, does the Bible allow you to have anal sex? Because a lot of people actually take it. No, wait. I don't know if I can talk about this, but I'm just not going to even mention it no more. But the Bible doesn't specifically say you can't do that. It says that you can have vaginal. It doesn't say you can't have anal. But this is a lot of people today actually make that case and say that having it through the bum is okay.
It kind of does, though, right? Because you say if a man lies with another man like it lies with a woman, they should be stoned. So that's literally, but it's only anal sex between men.
The Bible never says
it doesn't say anything about anal sex between a man or a woman.
I mean, it's not like pegging or something like that is considered to be wrong in the eyes of the church. What you do in your bed is all up to you.
There is no way pegging is acceptable. I will ask an Orthodox priest, hey, is pegging okay? There's no freaking way that guy's going to be like, oh, pegging? Oh, it's based.
Wait, why,
based and pegging pilled?
wait. If the Bible says not to lie with another man like you would a woman, but what if you lie with a woman and she pegs you?
Whoa! But that's what I'm saying. It's like it doesn't say anything about
Sounds like a
anal sex with
good
woman,
Saturday.
right? So it's like you can have anal sex, but between a man and a woman, and also pegging. If a woman pegs you, it's not a man doing it, right? So it's like it's still okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Yo, if they're married,
I would. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, is it really a carnal desire at that point?
I mean,
No, it's not.
okay, okay. So when it comes to pegging, that's not actually sex,
By the
because you're
way,
not
I'm
using
gonna get
your
yelled
like
at.
penis,
I'm gonna
right?
get yelled at by Anthony by agreeing to this because I may be wrong, but I'm gonna say yes because there's no. I'm not gonna even accept it. I swear I will convert to another.
You're gonna receive a visit from God's angel tonight.
He's gonna be like,
I just wake up and see
bro,
Gabriel.
did you
Gabriel
just
says,
agree with
no, no,
Amender
no, no.
that
If you
pegging's
feel like
okay?
somebody's pegging you in the middle of the night,
No.
that's Gabriel. Okay.
So we started with.
There's a reason why they call him Gabriel.
Gabriel.
By the way, just want to make sure we know this. We started with RFK and Trump's
Yeah.
Gaza.
Yeah.
We've gone to Christian ethics, then Christian decisions,
Yeah.
then the extermination of charrugas and Catholicism in Latin
Yeah.
America.
We're
and
just gonna call this entire.
Angel-
This is a whole debate that is Christian ethics good.
We ended with the angel Gabriel.
That's gonna be it.
showing
Is
up
Christian ethics
at night.
good?
to tell me in the bum is bad.
Gabriel. You need to put the accent
Gabriel.
properly.
Yeah.
Gabriel. This is very funny.
All right.
But thank you so
Well,
much, Amanda, for having the
Yeah,
conversation.
no problem.
I'll try another time maybe to convince you, but I don't think I'm
Yeah.
going to be
Good,
having much luck with it.
good talk, Dylan. Good talk.